Let's get into it. It's the Underdog Research Channel. I'm here for one reason and one reason only. Let's talk about Mitch McConnell's proof of life picture, real, fake, or staged. The questions have been piling on. So I thought, let me go ahead and do what I do. Let me get into this. I'm a digital forensic scientist. I'm a multimedia examiner. I'm a researcher, and I try to give people information to help you better understand lots of different technology-based conversations. Real world alpha, as I call it. Now, today's conversation is specifically about the recent post about Mitch McConnell. It was given on July the 12th of 2026, and this was the proof of life post. You know, there's been a lot of rumors circulating, but there's been as many questions as we have answers, and I wanted to take the opportunity to do what I do and show you firsthand a real world forensic investigation about the image they provided to give you some insights that you may not have seen before. Now, it's not like CSI where you type something down and in 45 minutes you solve the case. That's not the way it works in the real world. We're going to go through several different examinations of one image. I'm going to tell you what I see. I'm going to tell you what I don't see. I'm just going to give you my opinion. Now, again, because of the fact we want to make sure that we're doing everything in perspective, this is my opinion. You'll see some techniques. I've changed the names of some techniques because my community I'm talking to is maybe not in a scientific community. So you speak differently depending on who is the audience. So I'm going to break it down easy for anyone to understand. And so with that being said, let me give you a rundown about what happened. And let's get into this forensic evaluation, whether or not if Mitch McConnell's picture is real. Is it fake? Is it staged? A real world forensic analysis. If y'all ready, I'm ready. I think we should get into it. So before we get into all that, I do want to bring up some things that I have to do. I know we're in a world right now where people's opinions matter more than facts and resources, but that's just not the way science works. The way science works is like this, folks. Regardless of your political opinions, regardless of what you feel inside your heart, it has to be repeatable for science. It has to be reproducible, and it has to be evidence-based in order for it to be scientific. So I'm going to be talking about some concepts, some things with high-level terms, some things that you may not have heard of before. You're going to have to take my word on some things because this is not a lecture. This is a setting to give you a kind of a glimpse into this image. I also want to keep in mind that this is not a traditional forensic study. I would have taken more time to look at details, but I thought for the purposes of this, I could give you some answers that you may want to know. So keep that in mind as well. We have to talk about sources. So let's start talking about the first source. The first source I want to give you is where this first started. It's not the image. It's about the narrative of what occurred. The narrative first started because of a report from an independent reporter named Desiree Townsend. Now, Desiree Townsend is a correspondent, independent journalist who reported something that no one else had really thought about or they didn't actually get into, and that was they was able to obtain the 911 calls from a residence in the Washington, D.C. area, and they shared their reporting about what they found. So I'm going to share with you right now about 120 seconds of 2 minutes video about the source of the conflict that has come to national attention. And then I'm going to get into the forensic evaluation. So I want you to know who the author is to give credit, and let's get to the source. So this is a conversation from the Young Turks about Desiree Townsend's finding, and let's talk about it after you watch this. So this is what you need to know.
Rapidly growing online threat is currently targeting kids.
Actually, that's not what I want to show you. I'll show you that in a minute. That's about Desiree. Let me show you what I want to show you. This is live, folks. This is what I want you to know. This is what you want to see.
Thompson shared an EMS recording from June 14th when he was hospitalized. This is the same day he went to the hospital. Now, the call requested advance life support to be sent to his home because he was found unconscious, and then later it turned out that he suffered from cardiac arrest. Now, it's a little bit difficult to make out what you hear in the audio recording, but this is the EMS recording that was later released by the journalist Townsend. Take a listen.
Medical local paramedic agent 3, medic 3, ALS response unconscious, 27 in Charlie. Medical local paramedic agent 3, medic 3, ALS response unconscious, 2 CCS in Charlie, close of 2nd Street on Charlie 11, 836.
Medic 3 communications. East Department supervisor, CPR in progress.
Okay.
EMS 2 response for cardiac arrest. 217 C3, no CCS in Charlie. EMS 2 response for cardiac arrest. 217 C3, no CCS in Charlie. Close of 2nd Street on Charlie 11, 843.
Medic 3, EMS 2 coming.
Critical for you to hear that evidence because of how his office is trying to downplay what's going on here. But for now, McConnell's team is alleging that his health is improving, but that's unlikely if you ask me. And if you ask friend of the show, Ken Klippenstein, who posted the following on X, only a tiny fraction, fewer than 5% of octogenarians survive an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest like the one McConnell suffered. I'll speculate further. Even if he's part of that lucky few, he'll have brain damage, as the vast majority of survivors do. Again, just want to repeat, he's 84 years old. What made this credible was the quote tweet by Desiree Townsend, the independent reporter that I've been referring to, who said, "I have heard the same thing from my sources for days. At this point, I am at the hospital for when they eventually decide to cut him off life support and move his body. His Capitol Police detail is still here as of 3:39 p.m. Eastern time." Luckily, joining us is the independent journalist I've been referring to throughout this story, Desiree Townsend. Desiree, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me today.
All right, so that's what I want to show you. So Desiree Townsend, we got to make sure we keep our evidence straight, because if you don't start with the same foundations Underdog, it doesn't matter what I show you. You're going to make up your own mind. I want you to, but we have to have agreeable sources like they used to. So Mitch McConnell goes, and that, just so you can see the time rate, that was in June the 14th. Mitch McConnell this is fact checked. I looked at some audio too that you just heard. And on June the 14th at 8:36 a.m., there was a emergency call at a Washington, D.C. residence, fire and EMS dispatched. And it captured this 911 call that Mitch McConnell was on advanced life support. That's what the dispatcher was saying, and that was confirmed. I was able to look at the audio to find out it's authentic, because that's what you do. You look at the sources. Mitch McConnell was reported to be unconscious, and according to the dispatch, paramedics were sent to the senator's residence near Capitol Hill, where he was having a cardiac arrest and unconscious. And then we found out from the what we just saw that apparently, and I'm not a medical expert, I'm going off of what I heard, only 5% of people can survive such a thing. And he is 84. So that the likelihood would be very unlikely. So this causes problem because he goes missing. No one's hearing about him. They're not getting reporting. And he is a sitting senator. And there's motive and reason why that you would want to keep it off the books if he was suffering this. But that's for another conversation. Today, I am here simply to go over the forensic facts about the image shown. So let's fast forward. I do want to go and do this too, because sources are important. So I started off with showing you Desiree Townsend, who is the journalist who broke this story. I want to play 60 seconds about who she is, because you may not have heard of her. I didn't hear of her until this. And then I'm going to get into what we're going to go over today. So this is about 60 seconds about the type of things that she talks about and what she reports on. Check this out.
Rapidly growing online threat is currently targeting kids across the country.
Talk to your children about sextortion and any other child exploitation. I knew nothing about it.
On December 9th, the Senate Judiciary Committee held a hearing on child online safety following the tragic deaths of several children who were targeted through online harassment and sextortion schemes. One mother, Tamia Woods, testified about what happened to her 17-year-old son on Instagram over a 19-and-a-half-hour period back in November of 2022, a sequence of events that ultimately led to his death.
I would give anything to have my son back. And if they have to learn, if they have to see James' face, if they have to see my tears, I'm going to make sure that it happens. If it means that I can save your grandchildren, I'm going to do it.
This is a story and a warning to every parent with a child online.
All right. So she does great work, folks. I just want to put that out there. So, sources matter. This is who she is. She's an independent journalist. She is talking about everything from online safety for children. She broke this story. She went and got the 911 calls. I took a look at it. That's not the subject for this investigation. I looked at the audio for the 911 call. I didn't see anything out of usual or unusual splices, splits. I was looking for things that would make me think if the call was real or not. I didn't see anything that was alarming. So I want to focus now to transition to why we're all here. We're here for one reason only. We know that Mitch McConnell suffered the incident. What happened? Because this is what happened. So just within the last 24 hours, this is why we're here. There was a image that was released. Mitch McConnell breaks silence on mystery hospitalization after Graham's death. Lindsey Graham dies quickly, and then we have this had already occurred. So the narrative, the conversation is, do you have two Republican senators who are no longer able to perform their duties because one has died and the other one potentially could be dead, or they're hiding the truth from you? And I'll tell you, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have to do a video about this, but I have always done type of videos like this. What is real, what is fake? And there's a lot of information out there. People are guessing. Let me give you some additional information and let you decide. So we're going to look at 3 images today from the same source. And we're going to evaluate, and I want to share with you what I see, my trained eyes have seen from doing this for a living. And then I'm going to share it with you, and then you make your own decisions. Again, this is my opinion based on my analysis and what I'm reviewing, and I've broken it down easy for you to understand. So I'm not going to use high-tech words. We're just going to keep it simple. So the first one I want you to see, we're going to look at this image. This is the image by Fox News. I want to give the images, the post. It was 6:07 p.m. EDT. I want you to see it. Kentucky senator also battled mild case of pneumonia, but says he has unfinished business to complete. Mitch McConnell breaks silence on mystery hospitalization. So again, you need to understand there's 2 things happening here. You're seeing an image that Fox News has sent to you, and they told you this is him. And they also put an image of him in the past. I followed and found that image too. And then there's the narrative. What's the narrative that they want you to believe? Mitch McConnell breaks silence. So you can't break silence if you're not alive. So their narrative they want you to believe is that he is alive and well. And the hospitalization after Graham's death, Kentucky senator also battles mild case of pneumonia, but says he has unfinished business. Now, look at the date, folks. That's July the 12th. We just found out, we just heard with your own ears that he didn't have a mild case of pneumonia. We found out the fact check that on the 14th of June at 8:36 a.m., he requested advanced life support to emergency responders, and we heard it with our own ears. So we already got a question. Why is it that they're saying that he broke his silence and that he only had a mild case of pneumonia. This is the problem. We don't believe it. But I can't have an opinion, bias or not. I'm just going to show you what I see. Now, this is the picture they put. Now, next we have the second, CNN. McConnell says after weeks of speculation that hospitalization was due to a fall. Now, you got to look at what we just said. Fox News said it was pneumonia. Now we have CNN reporting that McConnell said he spoke on, this is on the 12th, 26 at 5:33 p.m. Now it's a fall. Wait a minute, folks. We got to keep going back because we're about to go through this forensics, and the forensics is important. The forensics will either prove, disprove, or question the evidence we received. We have the reality EMS report that we heard with our own ears that the reason he was hospitalized was due to what? He had an advanced life support. He was unconscious, and we happened 3 weeks earlier. This is in June. Now Fox News says it's due to pneumonia. CNN says it's due to a fall. And there's the picture they put in. Same image, different narrative. So now we got this image. We got the Fox News showing who he was before, and he's okay. And we got CNN showing he's okay. Same image, different narrative. They think we're not smart to catch on. So let's keep going. Now we got ABC, June the 12th, 2026. Now pay attention to that time code, folks. Mitch McConnell assures Kentuckians of ongoing Senate work during recovery from a fall and pneumonia. Okay, now we got both. We got pneumonia and a fall. Look at the time, 5:26 p.m. This is what ABC local news had said. And then we go back to CNN, 5:33. So that means that this one here by ABC came before this one here. So it went from, it keeps getting reduced. And then by the time it's at 6:07, this is the latest reporting. It's just pneumonia. If that's not watered down, if that's not inconsistent, if that's not a discrepancy, then I don't know what is. Because we all know, we just going to go back to it, that the real reason wasn't stated here at this time. He was found unconscious. So did he fall so hard that he knocked himself unconscious and caught pneumonia? Did he catch pneumonia and then run out of oxygen and then he fell? It's not making sense with what's being reported by 3 major news stations. So let's go back to what Desiree Townsend has done. She questioned the answers, and now we're going to question the response that they gave us. So first, I want to start off with a few things we're going to go over. We're going to go through several different things. Now, we're going to go through eye forensics today. We're going to go through hand forensics today. We're going to go through scene forensics today. I'm going to go through visual forensics today. And we're going to go through stage forensics today. All of this from one picture. Let me tell you the disadvantage before I get started. With a real image versus a reproduced image. Today, I am working off of online sources, the images that someone put online, the team of Mitch McConnell, from what is reported. That image was circulated through major news stations. It is not the original image because only the phone or camera that took the image has the thing called XF data. That's XF or metadata, depending if it's a camera or if it's a phone, is data about the image. This data that we're looking at is going to be based on a second-hand image. I could not confirm the original image because I did not receive the original image. This is important. We're already at a disadvantage because there's data that tells us things as a forensic examiner, as a multimedia examiner, that can confirm the authenticity of an image. So I can now still do an evaluation, but it's always best to work out of the original image. So this is what I did. I went back and I did something called provenance. let's go ahead and start off with showing you the image that we're going to be working off of. Now, you already know, but we're going to hit all these forensic points. So let's start talking about provenance. So let me share this with you right now. Now, provenance, what is it? Provenance is you go back and here we go. Check this out, folks. Now, I'm gonna make sure you can see me still. If not, you can hear me at least. And then we'll be able to talk about what we're talking about here. Now, provenance is when you look at it, make sure that y'all can see that. I don't see it here. Okay, there we go. All right, here's what we got. So provenance is when you go back in time. Now, this is a tool that I'm using to evaluate it. I'm going to show you this on the screen. I can do a lot of different things with my tool. We're going to be using different tools. But what is provenance? What does that matter for what we're doing? Provenance is when you can look at something and you can determine where it began at. And so today we're going to look at a little bit of provenance with this. We're going to look at a little bit of provenance and find out exactly what we need to look at. So I trace back the earliest time period for this image. That's the first forensic clue, provenance. I try to find on the internet where the first image came from. And then I looked at the images that they showed us. So what did I find? So let's pull up this image again, and then let's talk about it. Let me go. You're going to hear my voice, and then we're going to start talking about this image. So as we look at the image that I'm about to pull up with McConnell, and bear with me, this is live. You're not doing this live. As we look at this image here, and hopefully everybody can see that. And it should be. Let me just check to make sure there it goes. It's on the screen. Everyone can see it. Perfect. As we look at this image, I went back and I just want to make sure that the date in which this was posted on the internet was on July the 12th of 2026. I want to make sure there wasn't another image similar to it. And I can report that I did not find an earlier variation of this image anywhere else. Now, that's important because I want to make sure that as I do an evaluation on these three different images that came from one source, ABC, CNN, and Fox News, which different narratives, that I'm not finding an old picture, because an old picture may let me know that someone is doing a little bit something different. They're trying to sell something new that was already has happened. So let's talk about what we're going to look at. So as I said, the first thing we're going to look at is eye forensics. Now, we're going to talk about eye forensics and why that matters. So eye forensics is going to tell us a lot. Now here, I want you to notice something that a lot of people won't notice. There is light sources coming in this room. We call this a scene. There's a light source that you can see above the head of the wife of Mitch McConnell. There's a light source that I'm assuming is coming from a window right here. And then there's a light to the left of Mitch McConnell. And there's a light source, if you can look in the eyes of his wife, coming from the front. And I'm assuming that light source is a camera flash, and that is something that's called specularities. Now, let me look at you real quick to make sure we're on the same page. So we got three different things that I can evaluate already. I'm about to show you those things. The light sources. If you take someone, for example, there's AI, and then there's software-based, and then there's real-world images. So an AI image can create something from iterations of other images. A software-based could be like your Adobe or Photoshop. And then you got a real image that you take with a camera. Each and every one of them is a different type of image, but they have different features. Now, if you take someone from a software-based and place them into the scene of another image, it will create discrepancies. Even if the person tries to adjust lighting, one discrepancy will, if the sun or lighting is coming from a different place, there's techniques we can look at software-wise to discover why the light is different on that person. You can't see it sometimes with the naked eye, but through software and technology, you can see these discrepancies. So there's two things that or three things overall we want to pay attention to on this next part. And one of the things I want you to pay attention to, it's a light. So let's get back to this image. Let me share it with you again. Let's talk about that light. So we're about to look at this image and talk about that. So right now, as you can see clearly here, we have light, and that light is coming from this image. And as we look at that, we're going to try to find out whether or not that light is organic coming from this image, or is that light coming from something else? I want to find out whether or not that is happening or not. So let's look at it and let's find out right now. So as you can see my cursor. So make sure that you pay attention to my cursor that I show you. So I'm going to pull this up. So I'm going to first do the first piece, and I'm going to mess with the light. Now I'm going to use a technique, and it's called error level analysis. Now, you can't tell much. To you, this is like a blurred image. Now, to me, what I can see is what I'm going to call hotspots for the purpose of this conversation. I see the differences in pixel values right here. If you pay attention, it looks like it's an orangish color, and everything else is purple in color. And that is showing me compression. Now, what I'm trying to find out is, and even my date, if I was to take this off and go back to the original visual inspection, I want you to pay attention to the date that you see right here. And when I put it under this error level analysis, notice that you can tell. See how it lights up? You can tell because that July the 12th, I put into this image, it wasn't originally there, and the compression artifacts are different than the rest of it. Now, I noticed that one thing that I noticed, he's wearing a white shirt, and I'm looking at it, and it doesn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary. The light compression around his white shirt seems to be reflecting more in this area, which is consistent with what I see visually. I see more light in this area. Let's get a little bit closer. You can see the sunlight in this area on his body, but there's shadows from his shirt. So I expected to see more of an orangish color here. And as I do this particular function and I look at it, that's exactly where the light's coming from. I also didn't expect to see any of this orangish color on her because his body should be blocking the light from his wife. So since I'm not seeing this on her, for me, that doesn't throw out anything unusual. Now I'm going to go a little bit deeper, and you can't see the small changes, but I'm making a little bit more and more adjustments to make sure that nothing stands out. So as it looks at this very moment, nothing seems to show me that there is anything unusual about the light. But what about their eyes? So let's go to their eyes. Now, when I look at his eyes, what I am looking for, and let's start with her, his wife. As you look at her eyes, if you got to put this on big screen, if you're not watching this on big screen, your little pixels in your phone not going to pick this up. So make sure you're putting this on a big screen or a laptop. The little white here and here in her eyes is called a specularity. Now, I'm going to try to take a quick screenshot, and I'm going to see if it shows up on your end. And then I'm going to circle them, and it should show up. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to look to make sure, because I can't look at the screen and also do this at the same time. So let's make sure that everything is good on your end. So, all right, let me see if it's showing you. No, I don't think it's showing you there. So you have to take my word for it. You should be able to see it. So yeah, you can see it from here. So now I'm going to go back to the picture so I can see what I'm doing. So right here, this little white dot, if you zoom out, that is a lighting called specularities. That is the concave of her eyes reflecting off the light source, which is right in front of her face. I even see more shine here because there's light coming in from the sun that's not covered up by his face and hitting right in the alignment where it should. And I'm seeing the specularities in her eyes. Now, the cameraman who took this picture should have the same thing here. Here's one thing that I saw that gave me, again, it's not concerning, but it did give me pause. They're both looking in the same direction. I can clearly see the camera flash or the source of light that's in front of her eyes reflecting. What I'm not seeing is one in his, nor am I seeing anything reflecting off his glasses. I see one source of light, which is highly compressed, and that is right here reflecting off of the white of his eyes. In fact, if you zoom out, it's consistent with this light here. What I don't understand is why there is no reflection of light. His face is turned almost identical. I would assume I would find light reflecting off his glasses, off his eyelids, and for me, it is a little bit off kilter. Now, let me look at you again and let me take this, put this back up so that I can explain what could explain this and let you make a decision on your own about what you think. So when I look at this, and I got to pull this back up slowly so I can see what I'm talking about. There we go. When I look at that, the thing that comes to my mind is I got to give you both. I got to give you what could explain the lack of light being seen in his eye, on that one eye, and I got to explain also the discrepancy. So this could explain it. Compression. If you didn't know, images get compressed so they can be on your computer and easily pulled up. You got JPEGs, you got PNG, you got a lot of different formats. Now, PNG images maintain the same type of compression, but you got AVI, you got internet images. So one explanation for this is that there was light in his eye. I received a compressed picture offline that's been downloaded. And then during the download process, there's pixel values that lost value in that one eye. And then it just goes away. It loses data. So the image I'm seeing is a lower quality image. That would be the explanation for it. Compression caused the light specularities to go away. On the other hand, what is off about that is, if that is so, I'm not really understanding why around his eye that would be his right hand side, the light that's coming in from the window, what it's making me a little bit more. Again, there's not one thing's going to prove whether this is true or not, but I'm going to share it with you and let you decide for yourself what you think of it. The light source coming from the window on that one side, I would expect to see more sunlight going across the bridge of his nose and also hitting part of his glasses of the upper part, because that's the trajectory of the light. And if we can see, and I'm going to put this up here, this is not the image, but again, that's the point of it. Specularities. This is a multimedia forensic analysis of that lighting source. I'm going to bring back up the image. As we can see, I don't see that there. And let's share it again so we're on the same page. So let's go back to the image. Oh, okay. Actually, before I do that, let me show you this. This did show. Now, this is the picture I just took. All right. See, if you notice, look at her eyes. What I'm talking about is this right here, this whiteness in her eyes. That is called a specularity. That's a specular reflection off the concave of the eye. Here's the sunlight coming across his body, Mitch McConnell's body, hitting upon her face. So I know that she at least looks like she's in alignment, that she's in this room. I'm expecting to see these light sources coming from her face. But then let me stop sharing that and go to the other image. But if we look at the image that we see that they shared, the three major companies, and we go a little bit deeper, let me make this bigger for you, and we go across here, I'm not seeing it. Let's get real close. We can get closer if you want to. I am not seeing any light reflecting off this eye, nor am I seeing light reflect off here. And I'm not seeing as much light as I would think I would see on the bridge of his nose. There's nothing obstructing the light here from this window, from his shoulder. There's nothing obstructing the light here to the space. And also, let's talk about one more thing that we have to keep in mind. Timing. You see, this was taken from what was stated to us Sunday, and we're going to get to it in a minute because we're going to talk about this right here. We're going to pull this up. Let me pull this up. How we know that they're suggesting it was taken Sunday is this paper. Let me pull this up for a second for you so you can see it and we can talk about it right here. So we're going to look at this paper with Chris Hackman, and this is the image that we see that is being in the paper for that date and time. Let me show you, for those who may not have paid attention to that detail, let's go ahead and take a look at it now so we're on the same page. So in the hands of Mitch McConnell, we have a paper which is supposed to be proof of life. That's the purpose. You see the image of the person here. Let me make it big for you if you hadn't seen it already. Right here, this is the image. You can't really read the words. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's just make sure we're on the same page. So everything has to be consistent. So I want to make sure that we understand that this is a Sunday paper. I did confirm that, but we're going to go through that later on, and we need to talk about of that piece too. So let me take this off and make sure we go back. So that paper was stated to have been released on Sunday morning for the Sunday press for the news. Now, this is the thing though. The sunlight tells us the time of day because by the angle of the light will tell you where the sun is at that time. And by us knowing the time of the day and going back to get the time the picture was first released, it gives you a window of time in which we can put two and two together to figure out what time the picture actually was taken. Because if it was before 6 o'clock a.m. and there's no light outside, the sunlight is going to be in a different space. So I want to put this together. Again, I know it's not CSI in 45 minutes, you're done. But if we're really trying to get to the bottom of it, you need to see the discrepancies. And you also need to see what things we can look at to determine the authenticity of the paper. So where are we at right now? With the eye forensics test, I didn't see anything that was a pattern of unusualness. I saw light coming from three sources, one from the front, one from the side window on the right-hand side, and one also behind Mitch McConnell's wife. The thing that I found a discrepancy that was consistent, that looked okay. The discrepancy I saw was that on the frontward picture, there was a specularity that was expected to be seen, not getting seen from his left eye, not reflecting off his glasses, not reflecting off his pupil. The explanation could be that there was compression and I got a highly compressed picture. I went and I downloaded multiple versions. I could not find that under any version that I looked at. And that is the excuse that someone could say. The other excuse is that something around the eyes was not in the scene. Now you can put your thoughts. That could mean the person behind the eyes. That could mean that the eyes themselves. But I just want to put that out there so we're on the same page. Now, before I move on to hand forensics, I do want to do one more thing. I'm going to share one more thing with you. And this is going to be another look at comparing these two images together. I'm going to put ABC images of the light, and I'm going to put also Fox images of the light. So let's do that right now. So while you're waiting on me to do this part, I'm going, because I got to load my software and I got to do that for you. We're going to start with Fox News. And then I'm going to, matter of fact, I want you to see it. So let me X that out and let me share my screen so you can see me do it in real time. I told you folks, we're going to do a forensic investigation. We're going to do this thing and let's do it now. All right. So I'm going to put this on big screen so you can see me load it, loading up for yourselves. This is you're going to see it appear. The first one is going to be Fox News. And you see it appear. And now I'm going to go to my reference image. And the second image I'm going to load up. Let's go to the original image instead of ABC. Now, this is the two images. This is what Fox News said. I want to make sure that you can see that because I have to go back to the internet every time to make sure, okay, y'all can see that. So this is the Fox News and this is the original image. Both purport to be on the same time. Now, I'm not sure why they put this one on the left-hand side. It really has nothing to do with anything. But since they did it, there was some forensics I found. But let's get back to the thing that you want to see. Let's talk about this image here. So let me pull up my software. So I'm comparing these two images side by side. And I want to see what I find. Now, here's some things you can determine. I can use different type of analysis. I can look in the hexadecimal and I can read through what I downloaded from online, but that doesn't always give me good information because it's been altered. But this gives me data that I can look at. I can look at hex strings and I can look at other data that you may not be aware of. And I can look at EXIF data, which won't be there. But if I look at EXIF data, this will tell me things such as filters, adaptive, the creator tools. I'll look at all this. Now, let's look at the title. This one shows July 12th, 2026, 6:07 p.m. It shows right here, you can even see where it says Underdog Researcher. You know, you can tell a lot about the image. Now I'm going to go to something else. I'm going to look at the histogram. Now, what is this for? And I'm not going to go over everything. Histogram shares with me where the colors are, and it shows me spikes and a little bit differences in the images. And then I'm going to go last but not least to see if there's any thumbnails. Again, there's no thumbnails. So if you have like an iPhone or Android, we can look at that. I'm going to go through a few more things that I think are interesting. So one of the things I wanted to find out, and it's going to take a little bit to go through the process because this is a forensics, is I wanted to see how many times this image has been resaved over and over again. Now, I want to make sure that you guys can see this. Okay, you can. Now, this is what I want you to see. This is compression. When you don't, now let's make sure that you understand what we're looking at. So this is going to be the first time a lot of people see this. It's called a DCT plot. That's not important. I want you to first understand what it represents. So this is the image. So I'm going to go back down to the DCT plot. You got the Fox on the left-hand side. You got the original image on the right-hand side. Now, when I go and I look at this graph tells me how many times and at what point this image was compressed. How many times was it saved over and over again? And as you can see, the Fox News one, again, this is based on what they uploaded. I downloaded right off their site. And I don't see a lot of compression. I don't see a lot of times people saved it over and over again because every time you save it, there is something behind the pixels that you can't see with the naked eyes that tells me it's resaved. But look at the original image, though. The original image, when I went back as far as I could go back that was posted, it seems to me it has multiple saves over and over again before it was uploaded into the online site. Now, that could be a lot of things. Let's talk about what it could be. But you can tell the difference. This is a Fox News version. I see a little compression here, a little compression here. Then I look at the DCT plot here, and it shows me lots and lots of different areas in what they compress. Now let's go back to the visual image. What does that mean, though, Underdog? What does that mean? What to me that means is that Fox News uploaded an image which didn't have that many alterations to it. So I would think. But the original image that was online, that the earliest I could find, had lots, and it shouldn't. So what was changed? Why were there so many saves? One thing that could have been that reason it was saved so many times, and let me see if you guys can see this. So that's not going to show it. Give me 1 second. I got to find the right thing to make it big again. Okay, there we go. One thing that it could possibly be, that could be a reason, is that they were airbrushing, fixing up his skin like they do in photos to make him look healthier. That could be a reason. Again, I can't tell you whether or not they did that yet, but I'm going to say that that could be the reason. The other thing is, I'm just looking at the visually. Let's go look at the left and right. Here's the original. If you can notice, I can tell that it seems like the one with the Fox News, his cheeks are rosier. Like he has, when you're sick, oftentimes people lose color. They call it losing color. Look at the picture they put of him here in the past. Look at this. Matter of fact, this is a perfect example. They didn't mean to do this. Here he's smiling. Here he's not smiling. Let's look at his face on the picture that they put up here. So let me make it smaller so we can get to it. And let's get to this picture. Now let's look at his face here. He's not smiling, but his cheeks look pale and white. And I just wanted to put this out here. Even here, I see the specularities from that camera in the front. I see the shine off the brim of his glasses on here and here, in alignment with the light source, and here all the way across. Just want to put that out there. But here, no one airbrushed this one. They weren't thinking about airbrushing it. No one did any touch-ups. His cheeks look pale. Here, he just suffered from what they said, a fall. He suffered a fall, pneumonia, yet he has the rosiest cheeks, and he's still missing something here. So for some reason, the Fox version of the image seems to be healthier looking. Look at the redness of his forehead. That's even better. Look at this two beside. Look at his forehead. Look how red, blood flowing in there. But look at the original picture, pale. Now, this one, again, I like to tell people what could that mean? One of them, let me put up Fox News is so that we are on the same page. One of them, Fox News is, maybe that was the closest to the original. That's what you would think. But remember I said time matter? Remember, Fox News didn't get put out there to 6:07. And the earliest version on between ABC and them, let's talk about their time, was 5:26. So if they have a later version they reported on, why is their version where they're saying that the only thing that was wrong was that he had a mild case of pneumonia? That would be more consistent with some rosy cheeks. That would be more consistent with that narrative that he just had a mild case of pneumonia, because we would have to forget that the real reason that he was there was on June the 14th, 2026. He had advanced life support and he has been in a hospital and was found unconscious. And that's the original reason. That right here, there's an inconsistency, folks. And the inconsistency is, it is very clear that whoever had this version, in my opinion, made his cheeks and face look more rosy, more vibrant by changing the camera settings and editing it. Again, I don't have the original image, so I can't give you 100% definitive. Based on my experience, based on what I'm seeing, this image has been altered. Now we still got to determine, what does that mean? We got light that doesn't exist in his specularities on his left eye. Yep, his left eye. We have that light existing in his wife's, but it's not on his. We got the later version at 6:07 p.m. by Fox News, where it says he has mild pneumonia, showing him with rosy cheeks, and his whole face seems to be brighter than the earliest version, where it showed him having pale face. This is something that's manipulated. Something has changed. Now, when I say manipulation, you have to determine for yourself, what is your threshold of what's considered manipulation. Anytime you alter the original image into a different form, it is manipulation. It doesn't matter if you airbrush a cheekbone. It doesn't matter if you take someone and put them in a different setting. The moment you change the original image from where it was, and then you attach a narrative, folks, put that narrative up here, mild case of pneumonia, 6:07 p.m. The moment you do that, you are trying to change a perspective about the source and the sickness of the person there. But why? Shouldn't the truth speak on its own? So let's move on to the next thing, folks. Let's talk about hand forensics. So we're going to bring in some different things. Again, I hope that y'all are enjoying this type of conversation. Again, I do this every so often to share a bit of my world. It's not like CSI. It's not type it in and then you get an answer. I want to bring you through it. Some of you might enjoy this type of coverage. Some of you may not. And I'm sorry if you don't, but I do. This is what I find peace and enjoy doing. And I help people to see things in a different perspective. So let's talk about hand forensics. We're going to go back and talk about different parts of forensics, but I want to talk about hands because it's important. Now, what do we see here? What can we find here? This is what I want you to know. What you can see here and what you can find here is, one, I want you not to only pay attention to Mitch McConnell's hands. I'm talking about the discrepancies. I want you to pay attention. You got to be hyper focused. I need to look you in the eyes. Attention to detail is mandatory to do this. If you don't have that attention span, you're going to miss it. I know we're a microwave society, but pay attention to the watch that he wears, to the rings that he has on his finger or the lack thereof. Pay attention to the bruising and marks on his hands. Pay attention to what they said was wrong, pneumonia, his actual health condition. And if anything outside of that varies, it's a pattern. One singular thing does not prove anything. A pattern of things brings you to suspicion, and then you have to use your analytical brain to determine whether or not you see it as a discrepancy or if you think it's for manipulation. I'm only going to share with you what I saw. So let's talk about hands. And this, we're going to talk about his finger evidence. I'm going to bring up his watch and I'm going to bring up his hand. And let's bring in the conversation a little bit more deeper in details because it tells me a story and I want to share that with you. So I'm going to bring up my trusty information again. I'm going to share it with you. Let me go ahead and share this now. All right. We're going to see it get deleted off of here slowly but surely. Let me delete off the pictures. We're going to start from a clean slate. And I got more about the eyes from a different thing, but I want to move on to hands. So as we move on to hands, let's find other evidence that I think you might want to see. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to talk about the original image. So let me get the original image and then I will put in the hands. All right. So here's the original image. We're going to pay attention for this to his hand right here. And I'll make sure that y'all can see it on your end. Okay. It's not big. Let me put it big. I apologize. See, that's why I check back and forth. There we go. All right. We're going to pay attention to his hand right there. We're going to look at that. Now, let me use a reference image. This is the original image. This is the earliest image I could find. This is what they told you about. Now, let me pull in a picture of his hands, and let's talk about different historical pictures of his hands and what we will see. So let me pull up, let's start right here. Now, folks, I want to make sure that y'all can see this. I'll be switching back and forth. Okay, you can see that. So this is what I want you to see. In this picture, I paid attention to his hands because I saw a history of things that are indicators of whether or not it's his hands. Not if he has 6 fingers or not. I look for that. But I want to look at his hands and if there's any trauma to his hands, if he's wearing certain things. And one of the first things I did notice is there is no ring. This is his left hand, and there is no ring on his ring finger. Now, There is no watch here either. Now, someone's going to say, well, what does that matter? So let's talk about his health in the past. Even if I look at him in the past here, he has a very telltale ring and a very telltale watch that he wears in all the hospital visits and his time in Congress. He has this gold ring with a black stone here, and he has a gold watch with a black band with gold trimming. Now, I don't know about you, but let's bring up different pictures to compare. This is during a recent health issue he has, and we're going to talk about the absence of it, but we'll talk about it in a minute. But here I'm looking at his ring finger. Let's bring up another image. Now, I made this image a little bit closer. I want you guys to see it. Check this out. There's three things I want you to notice. One, here's that ring I was discussing before. Right here. Here's the gold ring. Two, let's look at his hands. There is some type of bruising, age spots, where you call it. There's different conditions. I don't know exactly his medical condition. It was buried online. But I want you to notice something too. I want you to notice that he is wearing a suit. I want you to notice on your own, and I can do a measurement, but I don't think it's necessary. I think you all can see it for yourself clearly, that his wrist is here, and the space between the end of this dark marks on his hands, this is just a few weeks ago, not too long ago, and here is between 1.5 to 2 inches. Now, you have to take my word for it. Now, even if you was to look at the side, you can tell about the darkness of it. You can tell by the length of it. You can tell by the watch being a placement of his wrist. You can clearly see on his hand where his wrist begins and where the marks on his hands are. Now, let's look at his picture. In this picture, he is now somehow, he's not wearing his ring. And that you might consider that, well, his hands are swollen. We'll talk about that. He's not wearing his watch. But the thing that throws me off, here's his sleeve. The darkness of his hand, the age marks goes all the way up into his sleeve. Look at that, folks. Look at it. I didn't make this up. I'm just showing you. Now, unless his condition just drastically worsened, his hands has always had these marks. I went back as far as years in the past. It's progressively gotten darker in spots, but there is no 1 to 2 inches between where his wrist is and his dark spots. In fact, if you look at it, you can see something else that's kind of interesting to me. You see that sunlight? That sunlight here? I want you to see if you can see that white. That is coming from the sun. Now, for some reason, there's a lot of compression right here. Now, he has his shirt, I would expect to be compressed because it's that sucker type pattern. But here's the sunlight. But right here, look at it, folks. It's so distinct. That compression on this side is highly compressed. And this shouldn't be. This is the original image. And I'm not understanding two things. One, why does his hand appear to be darker and more progressive than in the weeks past? Why has the line somehow disappeared and that 1 to 2 inches is now gone? And that bruising goes from the front of his hand, where he has no wedding ring for the first time I've seen, all the way up underneath his sleeve. Looking at it back to this, here we go, folks, so you can see the comparison. His bruising doesn't stop there. His wrist seems to be shorter. Here's a suit. His wrist suit, even if that suit was past his watch, so his watch is going down more, that suit will fall right about here. And even with that being said, we should see more clarity from where his wrist is, where the watch would be. There is no spacing between that watch where it would be. In fact, that watch is not there. But his wrist, we can assume his wrist is right there. There is no 1 to 2 inches. Somehow his hand seems to be somehow this line of with that bruising is either gotten progressively worse, but the problem is underneath this this picture right here, that whole wrist is gone. It's a arm. It's even under, you can look at his other portion of it. We'll talk about this hand and finger in a minute. He don't have a wrist. I don't know what to say. It's not covered. The sunlight is right there. Look, why isn't the sunlight reflecting underneath this? The sun is supposed to be reflecting right here. Even if his shirt was blocking it, we should see his wrist illuminated by this light. Why is it not there? It's literally stuck. Why isn't it hitting here on the shirt? Why? Look at the shirt. Look at it, folks. Sunlight comes in from this side of his body. It's reflecting. It stops here. The sunlight hits here. Why isn't it not reflecting here across his wrist? And then why is this so compressed? Again, this is his hand. This is the image. It's very, very compressed. Again, I'm putting this all together. We have missing light speculators from his eyes. We have a missing ring from his hand. We have a wrist that's non-existent. We have light coming from a sun, but it's not reflecting on his hand. It's not reflecting on his hand at all, but it's reflecting on this side of his body. That's not making sense to me. So let's pull up another image. We want to keep using reference images from the past. Let's bring up another image. So here's his hand again. There we go, folks. Here's his sleeve with his suits. Here's an earlier time frame. If you want me to tell you the exact date, I can. Here's that ring. Okay. We can look at his hands, his fingers. There's his ring. As a matter of fact, if you zoom in close enough, you can even see the lightness of, he wears his wedding ring all the time. You can even see the lightness when he takes this ring off. Right around here, it's lighter in color. And let's see on his hand. I don't see it. I don't see it at all. So again, is this problematic? It's again, I'm not going to tell you it's problematic or not. All I'm going to share with you is more images. There's his wrist. Here is the black marks on his hands at an earlier time frame. And the distance between this point and this point is about 1.5 to 2 inches, which is not consistent with this picture. So let's bring another picture. We're going to go to this one. This is Senator Mitch McConnell. Let's look at this. Here we go again. Ring, black mark, wrist, the same watch. Let's look and see if we can get the distance. There we go. The ending of the black between here and here, between 1.5 to 2 inches. Consistent. Let's go back even further. And that one was closer. Let's go back further. This is April 14th of 2026. Oh, there we go. Can't see his wrist, but we can see the ring. See ring right here. Go here. Just want to make sure we keep referencing over here. None there. Let's go back. Let's keep pulling up. We're going to keep pulling up examples. Here we go. If you want the date, just let me know. He's being escorted out. Let's go down to it. We even got patches. So right here, you can see even marks. That's his coat sleeve. You got a bandage here from the whatever that is on his hand. I forgot the exact proper name. His fingers are swollen, and even with the swollen fingers, you can't see it very well unless you have the big screen. But right here, folks, that is that ring. Even with the swollen fingers. Matter of fact, look at his hands. His hands are so swollen here that it's popping off. You can see clearly his knuckles and then the bends of his knuckles. And even underneath that, I see that ring. But here, his hands don't even look at half as swole, but no ring, and his wrist is different. Let's keep bringing up one more, and then we'll move on from here. Let's bring up, I got several pictures I took, so we'll go back in time. Let's bring up 2 more. So this is from June the 22nd of 2026. It says a report was least filed. All right, what do we have here? We have the wrist. We have the ring. Now, that's not a really good angle, but I do want to show you his fingers. That's going to matter in a minute. We can see the ring and the wrist, and I'm going to show you one more, and then we're going to keep going back to the reference image. One more, and then we're going to move on from here because I think I done exhausted the ring and wrist. And let's bring up this one. So again, this one here. There we go. Mitch McConnell. Same thing. Wrist. I got the 1.5 to 2 inches of space of white spacing. I have an actual wrist, a human wrist, and I even have light coming in from a light source hitting where it needs to. But here it is absent. So let's take this off and look at you and see where we're at. Are y'all still with me? Are you still with me? So we are looking through this. We are seeing some problems here, folks. So what are we seeing problems with? Wrist, ring, and lighting are off. Maybe we can justify it. If I'm in a hospital, maybe his fingers and stuff were getting swollen. They didn't look any more swollen than I saw a picture where his hands were significantly more swollen with Band-Aids on it. And he still kept on that ring with the little black stone. He still kept on that watch. So if it's a medical thing, why wouldn't they take the same precautions when he is walking around? If he's having fluid buildup, edema, or whatever that is, why wouldn't he take off those rings when he's having these issues? It's clear, and I'm not a medical doctor, but it's clear that his hands were swollen. He maintains consistency. Even when I've seen his pictures in and out of hospital beds, he has maintained that ring and wrist with the watch, same ones. But now they're gone, and then the lighting is off with his wrist. Let's keep going. Now, we have talked about a lot of things. I want to bring up something else, though. Let me see if I can do this now. Yeah, let's do this real quick. Let me bring up one more thing before I move on. Here we go. And let me upload this. Okay. All right. So this is what I'm going to do, folks. I am going to share a free site that you can see because I'm showing you forensic software. Let me share a free site with you real quick that you can look at. You can play around on your own that I think that will be very interesting for you to see. Let me share my screen. This one is going to be called, there we go. So I have to go back through several things to make sure I'm on the right page. So bear with me. Thank you for your patience. There we go. Now, let me make sure you can see this, and then I will be good. Okay, you can see that. Let me take myself off of this. I might put myself small. Okay. Now, this is a site you can use. It's free. It's called Photo Forensics. Now, I'm not going to go too involved, but it's called Error Level Analysis. It's something I already showed you, ELA for short. This gives you a few different things you can play around with images. I do want to show you something. I'm going to pull in Fox News's picture. I'm going to pull in ABC's picture. I'm going to pull in the CNN pictures. Now, what is this tool used for? This particular thing I'm about to show you. If I make a change to an image and I use software, the pixel values will be newer than the previous image. So I want you to imagine this. Imagine you have a wall and you had a house for 20 years. And I want you to imagine you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, you get some paint, and the wall is painted white. If you go and get new white paint and it matches perfectly, and you go up and down on one part of that wall and nothing else, and it dries, visually, you can still see where you painted because the white paint that was not painted has been faded over time. The same principle with an image. AI is a little bit different to a certain extent, but with software-based methods, if someone takes an image and they edit that image by adding something to it with software and it gets compressed and saved, then we can see where the image potentially has been changed, because the pixel values will show differently. That makes sense? Now let's talk about this image. So we're looking at this image. I'm gonna make it big if I can for you guys. Let's see here if I can make it any bigger. I'm gonna try to. I think that's as big as it can get. Let me see if I can adjust it in the actual thing. Let's see if this helps. And I'm gonna go back. Yeah, there we go. So this is what I want you to see. This is the Fox News picture. We're gonna go to this picture. Now, this is one type of analysis called error level analysis. And as you can see, this is what I added. I added the word Fox News. You see how that stands out? Now, this image here that you're seeing on the right-hand side, this is the picture of Mitch McConnell. And when I do that, I'm looking to see if everything is uniform, has anything been added, and I don't see anything, even here. So let's pull in the other ones. Now, what that means, does that mean nothing has been compressed? No, that doesn't mean that nothing has been changed. What I'm looking for is any obvious changes. It's a pattern. So now I'm going to see if I can add in a different image. So let me stop sharing this for a second. Let me reduce this for a moment, and then I'll reshare it, folks. I got this is it's hard doing it in real time, folks. You want to see what we do behind closed doors? This is what happens. So now I'm about to reshare this with you and move this thing off of here, move this off of here, and then let me press the share so you guys can see it in real time. I'm doing a forensic evaluation right here, folks. If you like this type of research, make sure you stay with Underdog Research Channel. That's what I do. All right, so now we're going to go back to this. All right, now let me see if I can add in another picture. So I'm going to choose another picture. I'm not sure if it shows you. That was Fox. Let's pull in ABC's picture. We're going to question them, all of them. Every last one of them. We're going to question it. All right. So now I'm looking for the same thing I did before. This is ABC's picture. Let me make it larger for you so you can see it bigger. ABC's picture. I'm looking for changes. And I'm still not seeing things change much. Now, I do want you to notice something too. Remember I told you about those specularities? Now, notice that I can even see the whites in her eyes here and here for his wife. And notice you only see one. You got to get it. Let me get it bigger because it's hard to see. So let's see if this works. 1, 2. Specularities. Even in this mythology, I can see them very clearly. But here's the white of his shirt reflecting off the sun. Here's even the white edges of the bed frame. I looked at that, and it's reflecting. There's light going behind it. The light around his glasses, one eye, but there is no light on this right-hand side. And so I'm also looking at the light that I see from the image right here on his shirt. That light still remains, and I don't see anything different on his hands. So here it is again. I'm looking to see if there's anything different on his hands. Nothing. So that passes the sniff test. I'm going to upload one more and then we'll move on. So now I'm going to upload the final one, which is going to be ABCs. So let me find ABCs and then we can move on to the next part. We got ABC, we got CNN, we got Fox News. Oh, did I just do ABC? Let me see what I just did before I upload this one. I think we just did ABC. So I'll do both again. Sorry, I lost track. So this is CNN, just in case I didn't do this one. All right. So CNN's image, everything's checked out. You can even see there's less compression. Look at those specularities. Bright white, right now. CNN is winning. CNN's image, which came out earlier than the Fox one, but not before the ABC one. There's not a lot of compression. I'm seeing what I expect to. The whites of her teeth are shining. I see the whites in her eyes. His is still missing this. And why is it? Because if they got the same image, they might have the same problem. Only one here. Let's look down at his wrist. All right, let me go back. His wrist, nothing is standing out to me under this. And let me see if there's anything hidden. Now, hidden pixels are sometimes things that you can find, but I don't see anything different here. So what did that tell me? Why did I share that? what that told me, and I could look at metadata, but really this is not going to tell me anything because I don't have the original image. So this would normally be helpful, but I just want to make sure that you guys can see this. And let me take this off of screen share. All right. So what did that tell me? We went back. So I have now concluded three things. The images show consistently that the Fox News version had more edits that I saw than the other versions that I obtained. What were those differences? From what I saw, in my opinion, it looks like the Fox version, where it had the minimum thing that's supposed to happen to him. The narrative was that, let me go back to the narrative because we got to keep going back to narrative. What they want you to believe is that he had mild case of pneumonia. The image should speak volumes for itself, but what I found so far is that his eyes, the images, at least they received, there's something off with the lighting. There's something off with the wrist. He's missing his ring. He's missing his watch. You can account for that because he's in the hospital or recovering at this point. Maybe that's the reason. The time of the day matters. But we're now starting to see discrepancies in each and every one of them, but I'm finding more discrepancies in the Fox News version of it. Let's keep going. Let's see what else we can find. So now I want to go to the scene. This is where it gets fun, folks. Now, the scene reveals a lot of stuff. What we're going to look at is his fingers. We're going to look at the ink on the paper he was reading. We're going to look at the image context. Well, it's said in the paper. We can read that. We're going to look at the image itself. We're going to look at his hand interaction to the newspaper, because the truth is in the details, folks. That's what the forensics does. It separates facts from fiction. See, forensics doesn't care about feelings and emotions and politics. Only thing I'm doing is sharing with you discrepancies and things that are consistent. I'm not proving anything other than to share with you what I see with a more trained eye. You have to take this information, make a decision for yourself. So let's look at the thing that we want to look at. So let's talk about it. Before we go to that forensic piece, I want to bring up some things. In his picture, the original image, let me show with you right here. In the original image, you will see a paper. And I circle this too because I saw something off the bat that I wanted to talk about, something that for me, I just can't explain it. It was when I first saw it, and that's how the paper is interacting with his finger. What do I mean by that? I thought I would show you. So let me take this off, and I'm going to try to show you the best way I can, if it will let me. I don't think it will. So, nope, it won't let me show you the way I want to. So you have to take my word for it. Now, if you can see this, the way the paper works, I hope you can hear me, is this. If I press down on the paper, it creates a crease right there. Hopefully you can see that. I press down on the paper to point to something, it creates a crease. Now that crease, when you capture it with a camera from the front view, the way the pixel values change will make it function differently. So here's from the side. Hopefully you can hear me. I'll talk a bit louder. So as I press down, it creates a crease. That is natural. Now, the only way it wouldn't press the crease is I hold this and I don't put any force to it. I just let it lay there naturally. But if I put any type of force to it, then it creates a crease in the paper. And then if I take a picture from the front, then you're going to see that. So hopefully y'all heard me as I did that. Now, what it threw me off, let's talk about this picture. When I first saw the picture, I didn't know what that bubble was underneath his finger. For me, when I first saw it, my first impressions is that's weird. It looks like a blob of paste is underneath his finger. Why is there so much noise, image noise underneath that? I circled it for you so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, let's look at his picture. Let's go back to his picture. And I'm going to switch over because right now you're seeing a image, I want to go to my forensic software. I want you to see it yourself. I'm going to go ahead and switch for you from this. Let me go ahead and do that now. 1 second here. Let's go ahead and knock this out. This is hard to do in real time, folks. So make sure you like and subscribe if you like this type of information. So let's share this with you right now. Now, this is the forensic tool you don't have. I'm going to now clear out this one so we can focus. And let me just make sure you can see it on your end, and you can. So let's focus on it, folks. So what I am talking about now is if you look at the image, what threw me off, I got to get right there to it. What threw me off is this part right here. Look at it. I see his finger. I see the paper. The plane of the paper is flat. And I see that he pushed down, or at least that's what it's supposed to look like. The intent is to make it look like, sorry, let me not be biased. It sounds biased. The intent is to show proof of life by showing a July the 12th paper. Remember, this is the original image. This is what they sent to you. This is what you've seen. The thing I'm having problems with is what I just showed you. If the newspaper is flat, he put pressure on it to point to the image of the guy right here, and we'll talk about that in a second. There's a crease in the paper, and the crease is localized only right here. This is the edge of it. I want you to see it so you can see it for yourself. This right here is the edge of it. I'm going to take a screenshot of that, and so that way I can show you even more clearer. And let's switch it over so you can see this. I'm going to switch over on this piece right now so you can see this a little bit more clearer. Share. Let me stop this screen share, and then we're going to quickly go back. So now let me share this again with you, and let me share with you the screenshot. All right. And now let me make sure that that screenshot is wide. Now, what I'm talking about is this spot right here. And make sure you can see that. There you go. You can see that. So that part right here makes me think a little bit. And the reason it makes me think is I'm wondering why that the pressure is so specifically localized that it's only, and I'm going to change the color so we can be on the same, that it's only applying force here and this white blob underneath it. So let me clear all this out. So I want you to pay attention, folks. I told you forensics is about detail. So here is the thing I want you to see. Here is the edge of the crease. The highest point of the crease is right here. What you're supposed to believe is that he put his finger to point to this guy right here. That's what you're supposed to believe. This is what you need to see, proof of life. And that's all fine and dandy, but somehow he has swollen fingers and he was able to have enough dexterity that he was able to push down one singular finger so specific, so direct that it only caused a crease in this little edge right here. And the problem with that, folks, the problem with it, what we're seeing here is, as I just shared with you before we started this, let me go off this and go back to it. As I just shared with you before we started that, I just showed you a newspaper sticker. The newspaper, and we'll pull it up so you can see it. It's in his, look how he's holding in his hand. It's laid across his lap. All right, it's laid across his lap, and then I'll go show you again here. I want to make this very clear for everyone to see. We're trying to determine, are we seeing things that are inconsistent with the natural environment that we live in? So let's make sure that you can see it for yourself. So we have, where's it at? Where's it at? Did I have to bring it up? Okay, here we go. Let's try this again. I want you to see the software. That's why I'm taking my time. Here we go. Okay. So this is what I'm trying to share with you. we just saw where the paper is laying. Here's the bed, a supportive bed. It's a recovery place. He's not in a hospital, he says. His elbow is resting naturally here on the bed. His index finger and his pointing finger is laid across his lap. The paper is a little bit thicker. It's open up to this page, and there is no touching here. His finger is not making contact with the paper. His only thing that's making pressure is his finger here. And somehow it was so acute that it only did enough bending that it bent perfectly right here in this space. And it left this little whiteness. And that whiteness we have to assume is the 3D dimensions taken of that picture. So if you're looking at this, you got to imagine, let me see if I can put this. Okay, you can still see me. You got to imagine for a second, you got a 2D picture, okay? You're taking a picture of someone like this, like the camera's in front, and you press the paper down. Let me see if I can still show you. Like this, and it creases. It somehow, I can't even do it. Somehow he was able to hold the paper flat on his arm, on his leg, and manipulate his fingers like this and crease it perfectly, and only in this spot. Look how the rest of my paper is bending. And I should have, if I want to do an exact analysis, I would take that newspaper. I'll go buy the newspaper and do it. And I would try it. But even if I had one piece of paper, let's try it with something a little bit thinner. That was, let's see if I can do it this way. This is a little bit thinner. Even if I took one piece of paper and I laid it on a flat surface, I'm going to grab something else to put a flat surface so we can mimic that being his leg. All right. So even if I do that and I press, the rest of the paper still bends in a curvature. I'm trying to make it, I'm trying to mimic what he did with my fingers, and I'm having a very difficult time. Now, what can explain it, folks? The texture of the paper, the angle, all that stuff. That's not the problem I'm seeing here. The problem I'm seeing here is still we keep having all these discrepancies, and the discrepancy that keeps coming up here, that again, is that here his elbow is resting, his finger here is not touching. It's an awkward way to show. It's a very awkward way. You can even see the shadow. Look, you can even see the shadow from this finger, the shadow from this finger. So if this finger is making contact, it's not showing. It's showing the paper is pressed down, but it's not showing his finger is in contact with the paper. From the outward look, I can't make this up. I want you to see that. I know it seems like a small detail, but that's important. I'm going to look at you in the face so we're on the same page, and then I'm going to make sure we're here. So we have his finger that doesn't seem to be bending with the same, it's not bending with the paper. Okay, it's not showing you all the way here. So let me pull this back up. There we go. There you go. His finger, in my opinion, either is so compressed, yet again, it's so compressed that it's just not showing us. But from what you can see with your own eyes, his finger is not making contact with the paper, yet the paper is bending. There's a shadow from the light underneath here. He's supporting the paper across this blue thing. So it would make sense that his hand and wrist would rest naturally onto the paper. His arm is not raised. There is his elbow. The paper's across his lap right here. And it looks to me from what I'm seeing that his finger is not making contact with the paper. Now, if his finger is making contact with the paper, then what we're seeing is the compression artifacts, and we're seeing a 3D image because the flat surface was bent down, and And we would expect the paper itself to have more bend in it. But the paper is not having any bend. The paper stops bending right here at this spot. That's the crease of the paper. So if this is someone saying, well, that's him touching the paper, cool. So his fingers here are not touching the paper. It's on his arm is being is resting against this blue surface of the bed. He's holding it by what? What is he holding it by? He's holding the tip of the paper with this finger because the shadow's underneath it, and he's pressing down like that. That is the most awkward way to prove something. Wouldn't you just think that you just lay your finger flat on it? So and then there's a lot of compression here. So it seems to me, as I'm looking at the image, even though this is further away, in my opinion, I believe that there is a problem with this picture in general. In my opinion, I think that what we are seeing is some type of manipulation to make it appear that he's touching a paper. And that's my belief. I don't believe he was touching the paper. I don't believe that was happening here because it's not consistent. Now, again, I got to give you pros and cons. I'm saying the same thing, it sounds like, but I just want to make sure I give you both sides. I don't want to be biased to both sides. I'm giving you my opinion and I'm giving you what I see. Here's the excuse. He was holding it awkwardly with his two fingers somehow. It was, I can't replicate it. Somehow he was holding up the paper and he stretched his finger and he pressed down like this as it laid across, and it only was enough pressure. I mean, his fingers are swollen from not wearing his ring. Remember, not wearing his watch. That's what we believe. And he has the dexterity at 84 years old to do something so precise that I can't do it, and I'm half his age. There's a problem with the compression underneath it. It looks like a blob of something. Why? Why is that blob there? Is it because the camera took a picture and it was compressed and a 2D image became a 3D, and that's what we're seeing? So why is there shadow underneath that portion, and why is there space between his finger and the paper? If your finger is making contact with the paper, then you should not have a shadow underneath it, and it should be very clear because the camera is taking a picture on the same plane. His finger is on top of the paper. I can't explain it. So for me, going to this portion of the image, that's problematic for me. And we go back to the things we find that are problematic. Again, we have to question everything. So far, let's recap and keep going through it. The eyes, specularities. There was no reflection in his left eye. His spouse had reflections in her eyes, showing that she was in the same space with the light source that was in front of them. But he didn't have that. It's the same camera person with the same flash. I should see light in his eyes. There's nothing to explain it. He had a second light coming from the window. I should see reflections off his glasses. I didn't see it in that side of his eye. One thing by itself, you could say it's a coincidence, but I got an image of a person in a room and I got two light sources, and near the light sources are reflecting off his face. The one in front of him and the one from the side. Make it make sense for me. That is not the natural way that things happen in a real world environment. That's not it. So if we're seeing that, we got to think to ourselves, why is it inconsistent? Now let's move to the hand forensics. Hand forensics. What do we see? We see that he has a history of wearing the gold ring with the black stone, gold watch with the black band, gold trim. I went back years. He wears it all the time. Even when his hand was swollen, even after known reported hospitalizations, within a day, we see him again publicly, he has it on. Here in this image, he does not have it on. Not the ring, nor the watch. What else we find that's discrepancy with? The spacing. His hands have very visible bruising marks, A spots, whatever you want to call it. I'm not a doctor. All I know is a visual thing that I can see. And that visual thing I can see consistently for years has had about 1.5 to 2 inches of space between his wrist and his watch. Excuse me, his wrist and the spots on his hands. Despite the progression of his disease, illness, or age, we have seen it there again and again and again for years publicly. You can go look yourself. But for some reason on that day, on July the 12th of 2026, for some reason he has no wrist. The line has now moved from 1.5 inches to 0 space. The light is not shining underneath his wrist and it's very blurred. And nothing else is consistent with that. No other images I found were consistent with that. The compression doesn't explain it. Nothing I'm finding is explaining it. But if we're going to say it's just compression, it lost pixel values. So why did his wrist lose 1.5 inches of space between the bruising? I don't know. Now we go to the scene forensics. What have we learned? We're going to dig a little bit deeper. We found a paper that he's holding. The paper, it was from a specific article, and we'll talk about this article in just a second. In this article, Chris I can't say his name, Hakopian. I don't watch baseball, but you can see the name right there for you to see. He is in this article. Now, what did we find in this article? What did we find that was important? In this article, we found that it's a real event that happened on before this, on around July the 11th, and this was published. Now, we're going to talk about this source in a second, but I want to get back to the forensics because my job is not to tell you what's real or fake. My job is to show you discrepancies forensically, and then you use the seat of your pants wisdom to make up your own decision. I will not tell you which thing to believe. I'm giving you my opinion, but I'm giving you the forensics. So what did we find with the scene forensics? So far, what we have found in the scene forensics is that the paper, I could not replicate what he did. I was unable to with the newspaper, and I didn't have a newspaper I showed you. I should have recorded beforehand, but I was unable to replicate with a newspaper. I was unable to replicate in real time right now with a regular piece of paper. A way to hold the paper in a way he did. Let's pull it up so you can see it. A way to hold this paper the way he did while resting his arm on that blue bed siding and hold the paper across his lap and apply just as much dexterity with this finger to be able to press down so acutely accurate that it only bends a small crevice of that paper when his hands are swollen more and he's 84 years old and should have less dexterity. And I'm going to assume, and I don't know because I'm not a doctor, that he might have arthritis or at least edema because we saw pictures of Band-Aids and these marks on his hands. His hands been swollen. So you tell me, do you believe that you have a grandparent, great-grandparent, do they have that dexterity when they have issues with their hands at that age to be so acute? If you think so, I want you to try to replicate what he did in the scene. If you can make it happen, then now add 40-something years to your age, and then you see if your grandparents can do that. If they can, with that much specificity, then, hey, you got some exception to the rule. But for the most part, most elderly people don't have a lot of dexterity in their fingers. And in my opinion, there was a blob-like substance. And I say substance rarely. I'm just saying a word. There was some type of compression underneath his finger. That compression underneath his finger, to me, in my opinion, looks like his finger is not making contact with the paper. If his finger is not making contact with the paper, in the natural world, you can't bend the paper unless you're the airbender, and somehow you can bend a piece of paper with your mind. So if his finger is not touching the paper, how is it bending? Unless it was already bent. And then that means, how did they stage it to make it look that way? I don't know if they staged or not. All I'm saying is a paper should naturally bend. If he bent it with his own power and will, then that means that he held it awkwardly. His finger is acute, has a lot of dexterity to make that picture happen. Unless it was artificially generated to make you believe that he was holding the paper for July the 12th. And in order for us to think if that was artificially generated, we have to go back to the narratives that were stated to you, because you were told that he was battling a mild case of pneumonia, but the reality was he had advanced life support response from a 911 call on June the 14th. And Fox News told you this. We were told, again, that pneumonia was the thing, but in reality, we got told at an earlier time frame that it was due to a fall. And then the reality, again, we was told at the earliest point, it was due to a fall and mild pneumonia. So let's think about it, folks. Let's put it all together. You tell me. And we're not even halfway done. So if you tell me, if the man has mild pneumonia and suffered from a fall, how is he so able to have such dexterity and rosy cheeks? Which is another issue that we have to talk about. Why did the pictures that Fox News have change the picture at all? Shouldn't you just get the image? Why did his face appear to be more rosier and healthier in that image at 6? Let's see what time it is again so we can get it right. At 6:07 p.m. than it was in the picture that we got at 5:26 p.m. or the picture that we got at 5:33 p.m. They all make him look pale, but even this picture years before, his face is not as rosy as it was in the Fox News picture. He is rosy and jolly. You could call him Santa Claus, unless someone's trying to manipulate you. Let's continue with our investigation, folks. So we have now talked a lot of things. I'm going to do the last two things, and that's going to complete this forensics. We're going to do a visual forensics, and we're going to look at stage forensics. Let's go through the facts. So before we do that, let's talk about this. It was Chris Hackopin's face that we saw in the image that we saw here, held in the picture. On the right-hand side, you'll see that this is what they wanted you to point to. Now, what we're going to look at is the source. I want you to first know that I traced back the sources. We somehow gotten away from the sources. Sources matter. I looked into two sources. The first source I want you to know I looked into is Andrew Damp. The second source is Noah White. Why? Because these two gentlemen are the individuals who produced the article about this individual. Are they directly related to the case? Not really. But because of the fact that the image of this man, Chris Hackopin, of the Aggies, apparently, because of the fact that his image showed up as proof of life, we need to examine the people and the sources. Because if we can't trust, we got to verify. So I did some researching, some open source intelligence. This is what I found about these two individuals before we go into the next part of the forensics. I found that Andrew Damp, he normally covers tennis, but he covers lots of sports. And I found out that Noah White, he does the online post writer as well. He's a student. I found out that he produced his story, which was at 7:38 p.m., July the 11th of 2026. He digitally posted this image of Chris Hackopin. I found out that afterwards, subsequently, it was Andrew Damp who produced the paper, which was he did that late on July the 11th, after 7:38 p.m., in order for it to go to press before Sunday morning, and it was printed on July the 12th, 2026, about the same article. So this image here, the paper, was Andrew Damp, who was the publisher of the article about Chris. So I wanted to make sure who he was, and we'll talk about that. I did some deeper dives, but according to AP, Andrew Damp is a sports writer. Damp has been a Rome-based sports writer at the AP for more than 20 years, covering soccer, tennis, alpine skiing, and many other events in Italy and beyond, including 5 soccer World Cups and 10 Olympics. I looked preliminarily. I saw no political affiliations. I saw nothing out of the ordinary. I saw that he covers sports. I couldn't find anything connected to the administration. From what I saw, he's doing what he said he does. He publishes sports articles. It just happened to be that Mitch McConnell chose that article. He also, which should be noted, made his publishing done on July the 11th for it to be produced in the paper that Mitch McConnell is stated to be holding. And so he had the later version of it, the paper copy that you see in the image. Now let's talk about Noah White. Now, Noah White, he produced the first copy of this article. His copy occurred exactly 7:38 on July the 11th. You can see it there. National Select second baseman Chris Hackapin in MLB draft first round. I went by Noah White. I went to the actual site. I actually subscribed, got the information I need to see to make sure that I could verify it. You can see the that article that you see right there is a public pixel. I'm not sharing the rest of the article with you because I'm just doing this for fair use. And I want to find out a little bit more about him. So I looked into him as well. And what I found about him was the same thing. According to the sources I found, he had digitally published this article at 7:38 p.m. on July 11th, 2026. And I was able to verify that at least the paper article was correct. So let's talk about what we see in the picture. So let's talk about back to forensics. Now we're going to talk about this. We're going to go to visual forensics and touch on stage forensics. Visual forensics. This is what you need to know. As I looked at this article that we saw that Andrew and Noah created, I wanted to know, was it staged or was it real? So the image is real. The paper is real. I verified both digital and paper copy when it was published, when it was produced, which means that the paper copy that Mitch McConnell had in the image was the one that was made by him, Andrew Damp. He was the writer of that article. So that is consistent. Now I need to understand if it's staged or not. So what I did was 2 things. This is the original image. I blew it up here for you to see. This is what you saw. And then I circled the spot that I thought was problematic. Now, if you notice on the right-hand side, you cannot read the words. But because of the fact that we was able to get the source, we was able to get the source of the image, which came from here. And let me share this with you real quick so that we're on the same page. Because we got the source and we got the real paper and we got the digital copy, and we saw that both of these people wrote, I know exactly what the paper should say and what was expected to say in the paper. So I looked at this and reconstructed it. So just so you know, this is the original. This is the AI reconstructed version. What I'm looking for is details about words. The text that's shown by Mitch McConnell is not readable, not by my forensic tools, not by AI. So if you see a version that you can read the text in the image, it is fake because it doesn't exist. I found online some versions where I can read text. So I want to put this out here so you can see a clear sign. If you can see the right-hand side, those letters are not readable. Now, this is what I did. This is original. I am telling you right now, I just made a manipulation to the image. I took what was known that was said by both posters in their report, and I knew what was posted and saw the actual paper article by Andrew Damp, and I compared it to what the size of the font, the placement of the font, and assumed letters of the font, and this is what it reconstructed. Now, what it reconstructed was the exact image of what should be read there. And I looked through it, and this is a little bit closer. Now, I'm going to read a little bit of it, but really, if you really want to read it, you can read it right here. And you can always go time code back. The article says, and I'm going to start with a little bit, London, Linda Noskova claims title in All Czech Showdown by Andrew Damp. Now, let's go back to the original image. So in the original image, I was looking for those big words there. And here's what it should say. Nokosha claims title in All Czech Showdown. Again, this is the AI reconstructed. I want you to know that when I manipulate something, if I change something, I'm going to tell you so that you want to say, Underdog, that's AI reconstructed. It's AI reconstructed from the actual article that was written and based on what was shown in the image, what words should be in that space. So let's put it all together. Let's make it make sense, folks. So here is the image. We know what it's supposed to say because we got the actual article. Here's my problem with the image. This is what it's supposed to say. But as you can see, let me bring up the, I want you to keep that in mind. Let me bring up the software again. Let's bring up the software again so you can see too. 1 second, folks. 1 second. All right, let's do this. Let's bring up the software again so you can see it in the software yourself. Now, I'll make sure that you can see this so that we're on the same page. Okay, now let me make it bigger. All right, is that big enough? I think it's not big enough. Let's make it bigger and then we'll be good. All right, so I'm going to show you this. This is July 12th. This is the image, the original image. Let's go down to the paper. I'm looking at the paper, and one of the things I noticed in some of the versions of this image that were put out here is that the wording here, what should be going here in this space, and I'm going to take a screenshot so that you can see it because I know that some of you might have don't have good eyes. So let me make sure I do that. And then let me make sure I circle the area, and then I'm going to reshare it. So folks, just bear with me as I go back and forth with the screen share so that you can see what I'm seeing because it's important. All right, now here we go. You're about to see this part. So as we go to this, let me share my screen. As we go to this, there we go. Cool. So now you can see it. I know you can see it because it's on the screen. And let me go to that snippet. Cool. As you look at this, what I found that was off kilter is that what words I know should be here, there's not as many dark, bolder words. The words here are in bold font. I cannot read them, but I can tell by the dark patterns, and I will make sure you can see it right here, right here, right here, right here, right here. I can tell how many words exist. And then I can see where it's supposed to be the name. And let me circle this part so you can see this in blue. This should be Andrew's name right here. That's what we should be looking for. So I know that the article stops here. So let me take this off. I want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Take this all off. So this is what's known. This is the name of the person who wrote the article, which means logical reasoning is that this section here is the section of the words that come above the name of the person who wrote the article. And then now we can count the words. We can't read them, but we can count the words that are stated here. Now, if I do a preliminary count, I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Now, this is a very rudimentary way to show you, but I just think it's important that you see it. All right. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, I'm missing a letter, but let's say, for example, we look back at, let me make sure you can see this. Let's say, for example, we look back at the original image, and let's do that right now. So we know that Andrew Damp's name, I want to make sure we're on the same page. We're on his image right here. His name is Andrew Damp. We see his name. We see it says Wimbledon, no Scoville, claims title, and all check showdown. The reason that's important is because we know, based on the image, that this is his work in his hand. What I'm looking for is that these words are consistent. The words that we see in that picture are consistent. And we have as many words. However, as I look at that particular piece of it, and I'm going to do my AI reconstruction, this is reconstructed. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm missing a whole word. Now, that detail to many of you may not seem important. Compression doesn't explain it. The pixel values are there. If you're looking from afar, it looks like it makes sense. If you're looking from afar, it makes sense that's there, unless the actual part of the paper itself is not correct. The actual paper that is in his lap is not there, which could be explained with AI. AI, with me having the source of the image, having the actual words from the image, I can recreate the exact words from the exact angle that it should show on the screen. But if I just took this image and I took words and an image of the image, for example, I took this article, let's pull up his article, and I told AI to take the words from this and recreate it, and I don't specify what those individual words are, then AI will hallucinate. And it will create a visually accurate image, photorealistic image, but the words, something be off. We have a huge discrepancy here, folks. We have an image from a known source that doesn't match at all the words that's supposed to be there above the name of the person who wrote it. Now, you explain that to me. It's not explained that it's a compression. We're missing a word completely from that image. It's not there. There's 6 words instead of 7. The 7 words are clear to see in the original image. The 7 words are clear. Even when I used AI and used the actual image to upload it, I was able to recreate it. But when I used AI and I only took the image, the AI hallucinated words and it didn't capture it because that little thing that's missing is right here. Let me pull it up for you. Let me tell you what's missing and what is the problem that with the AI. Is that hyphen between all and check. Because the quality of the image, the pixel value was so low that when AI reviewed it, it didn't read it as a word, so it removed it completely. The camera would have caught it. The camera would have caught the hyphen. I told you, folks, forensics is not about proving something's real or fake. It's about observing things. Now, someone could argue, well, Underdog, all it was compression. It's just a hyphen. Here's the problem, folks. The problem is you can clearly see in the original image that there is words above that space, and you can clearly see that even in the original image, there's only 6. No matter if I blow it up, I can bring it up and magnify it. It's not existing. It viewed it, AI, in my opinion, I gotta put my opinion because I don't have the original image, viewed it as one word. So it made it one word. And since no one ever thought that anyone will be looking at the actual detail of compressed words, no one ever thought to edit it. So let's talk about what we just found here, which to me is quite huge. I believe that what we're looking at is something that might be staged using AI manipulation and real world image manipulation, whether it's Photoshop, whether it's using other software, doesn't really matter. What we have started with is an original image that has had lots of problems. This original image has defied nature in sometimes. Let's go through what it's done because we have completed mostly everything I want to show you, enough that I think we're at a good spot. We went through eye forensics. We learned that there were specularities, reflections. There were 3 sources of light, one behind Mitch McConnell's wife, one coming from the left-hand side, we assume to be a window, and one coming from the person taking the picture in front of the bed. The light was on the wife. She was in the room, but the light was not consistent in the right on the left eye of Mitch McConnell. The light was not reflecting off his glasses. The light reflected off his glasses in every other picture I saw years back. Why didn't the light reflect on that day? We also saw that the light didn't hit across the bridge of his nose as it did everywhere else. Why? Let's keep going. Hand forensics. What did we find out? We found out he has a routine. Go watch, go trim, black band. Go ring, black stone. Wears it all the time, consistently. I went back, I showed you several. I looked at even more. What did we find out? He was not wearing it. The absence of it itself could mean something if it was, or it could mean nothing if that's all it is. One singular clue will not make anything, but a pattern is something you want to look into further. He is not wearing his ring. The inconsistency of that is a conflict with his real world actions. You could say it's because of his health. So I showed you images of his health at a worsened condition. We saw images of him with band-aids on his hands. His hands were more swollen, yet he still wore his ring. We saw images of his hands and his wrist. And we saw his hands and the black on his hands. We can call them age spots, whatever, whoever's the medical doctors. I'm not a medical doctor. Whatever it is, we had a distinguishing mark on his hand, which was 1.5 to 2 inches from his wrist, from the end of that distinguishing mark on his hand to his wrist where his watch is. In the image, we could not find that 1.5 inches, but it was there consistently, even just weeks before. Did his condition worsen so much that it grew, although it hadn't grown for years past that? And if that is the answer, then why did his wrist simply go away in a sleeved shirt? His wrist didn't disappear when he wore sleeved suits. So why did his wrist disappear in this image? If you answer that question, then why did the sunlight that reflected off his shirt from the left-hand side make way and hit his shirt, but that same sunlight didn't illuminate right there underneath his wrist? If you assume that, we have a discrepancy. There was a high compression around that spot. Is it coincidence or is it a discrepancy forensically? For me, in my opinion, I question it. I believe that it looks like there's some type of problem with it. You don't mysteriously in the real world lose 2 inches of wrist, even if you don't have the watch on. What should we have seen? We should have seen a lighter space where his watch would have been. We should have seen 1.5 inches between the blackness of his hand and that wrist. We didn't see it. That's problematic. Let's keep going. Scene forensics. Let's talk about the image. We verified the source and found the two authors. We found out that Noah produced his article before. And then the other one, Andrew, the other journalist who's in Rome, he writes about these things. I found no connections to any political parties for these two journalists. I found no connections to anything that might appear to be biased. I found a real world event that happened with Chris Hackman, and I found that it happened on the time frame, which means that the information is real. But was it staged? We looked at the visual forensics of it. And what did we find about that piece about the scene forensics? We found that on purpose that Mitch McConnell showed you that he had a paper in his hand. That was intentional to prove proof of life. We found that the image of Mitch McConnell with the image of his hand was Chris Copian. That image that we saw was this image here. This is from the real article. This is from the article that was produced in the newspaper. So now we narrowed down that it wasn't a digital copy of it, which was produced by Noah. We know where it came from. The source came from Andrew, who was the writer of this post. So now we go back to Mitch McConnell's. We don't have to guess. We know which one it is. We know what he wrote, and because we know what he wrote, we know exactly what word should be there. Above his name says Noscovia claims title in all dash check showdown. If we count the letters, not letters, but words, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 7 words. You cannot read those words on any image. The text is too small. But we can find out about those words by knowing what the original source of those words were. So what did we find out about the original source of those words? We found that in the image that we have with Mitch McConnell, there's a few problems with it. One, there's not enough words. We found that it was a hyphenated word and a whole word was missing. Not just a hyphen, a whole word was missing. We viewed it with magnification. We viewed it on several iterations, and we found throughout those several iterations online that there were 7 words that should be there. But the picture we have has 6. What could be the excuse? Compression. But wouldn't there be a placeholder, a blob that we can't read for that 7th word? Think so. We can see the smaller text beneath it, and we can still count the words and distinguish individual words with even smaller text. So logic tells us that there should be enough words in the larger text that we can see. Since it's not there, that's a discrepancy. And since it's a discrepancy, it's problematic. What else we find problem with it? The way he held the paper. He's 84 years old. His hands have a significant issue. Don't know what it is because I'm not a doctor. All I know that his hands look swollen at times. His hands have bruises on it. His hands are an 84-year-old man's hands. However, this flat piece of paper I cannot replicate with a newspaper nor with paper with half his age. I could not hold the paper in the way he was held it, put my arm in the same position he held it, and apply just enough dexterity. I want you to try it with your finger that I only touched with one finger without having the other ones because the other ones had shadow underneath it and we're not touching the paper. I'm not that talented, and that's very difficult. It's a very awkward way to hold a paper. Yet in this image that we see, Mitch McConnell did exactly that. Going back to the image, and let's go with the Fox News image, and since they want us to see it so bad, going back to the Fox News image, we can see the shadow very clearly under the other 2 fingers. And we know that those 2 fingers are not touching the paper because there cannot be a shadow underneath them from the light if it was. However, we see a blob-like substance, or I say disfigurement, underneath this finger, and his arm is resting upwardly and is pointing down, and it creases only the edge of the paper with so much delicacy that he didn't even crease the rest of it. I don't know about you, but as you get older you have a grandparent, you get stiffer hands. Older folks have a hard time with dexterity, especially when it's you see as a known issue. And they would not likely be an exception to the rule since he just, don't forget, folks, he was told that he was suffering from pneumonia, if you believe that, or suffering from a fall, if you believe that, or suffering from a fall and pneumonia. Or we can believe the independent journalist who reported and gave us the 911 call. And the 911 call said he had an advanced life support and he was unconscious and suffered from a severe issue, which only 5% of people survive from, according to the Young Turks, who discussed this issue and brought her on to the platform and stated us about what we found out. Now, why were we lied to? We keep going. In the forensics of this, we found out that this image, in my opinion, appeared to be inconsistent with the manner in which he held it, the pressure in which it was applied, and unable to replicate the same conditions that he had. It is possible that he was able to accomplish all these things, but the totality of what we went through, it's, to me, in my opinion, I believe that this picture of proof of life is staged. And I believe that it was staged using AI, manipulation of the image, and real people in the image. Now, does that mean that Mitch McConnell was not in that picture? What I'm saying is, I don't know if it is Mitch McConnell in a picture at an earlier date, and then the picture itself, the July the 12th image itself, was then placed into the picture in order for it to look like it was a real situation. So it could be a real picture of Mitch McConnell with his wife at a real time, but integrating a image that was manipulated, which is called staging, which means it is both real and manipulated. And I got to say it for clarity, in my opinion. So that, ladies and gentlemen, has been the forensic analysis for you to see about whether it was real, fake, or stage. That's all I got for you folks. Now, I took a long time. We are now hitting over 2 hours and 11 minutes. I don't expect everyone to have stayed here and like this and stuff like that. I'm going to time code it the best possible. And I want you to determine whether or not this is something that you're interested in. If so, subscribe to the channel. This is what I do for not only cryptocurrency projects, but for all types of projects. This is where I'm at. This is where I like to look at. Again, nothing I said today is a official forensic evaluation. I could be wrong, but it's not about being right or being wrong. I'm sharing with you things that I see. I also gave you an explanation for those things that could be a legitimate explanation, but I'm giving my opinion based on what I've seen. I don't believe the picture is real. I believe that it's really him at some stage in his life with his wife at some stage in her life. And I believe that the actual paper itself is questionable. And I believe that there was airbrushing, and I'm using that general term, and other manipulations that we saw across Fox News, ABC, and CNN. We saw the most, from my opinion, it looked to me that Fox News, their narrative was the most off and the most inconsistent with this right here. Is that on June the 14th of 2026 at 8:36 a.m., Mitch McConnell went into an unconscious state and was given CPR and was on advanced life support. That is not what I'm seeing here. So that's all I got, folks. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. I'm going to take a moment. I went through a lot of stuff. If you have any questions, ask it now or forever hold your peace. And if it's something that I can show you while I'm here, I'll be happy to do so. Let's see who made it to the show today and let's talk about it. That's all I got, folks. All right. So we're going to start with Da B65. Where is his fingertip from the first joint on his middle finger? And okay, Da made this post at 12:39 p.m. And let's talk about what he brought up. And see, this is what I love about it. I didn't talk to this man. I don't know who he is, but this is one of the things I saw. And let's bring it up right here. That's the exact same thing we discussed today. And Da said it at 12:39 p.m. before this video went live. So people are seeing things. You just may not have been able to explain it. And hopefully I explain it well for you. So let's go to the next one. We have Fatima. He says, hello, Underdog. When will you be doing Bobbitt Signal? Well, I'll talk about Bobbitt another time. We're talking about forensics today. Thank you for coming, though. I want to focus on what we're talking about today. We got Black Roo Investing. Hey, what's going on, Black Roo? I got to watch this program. He has a lot of great information. One of the best. I always love to see him when he comes to any of the shows that I do. Good for you to be here, Black Roo. Hey, Black Roo, what you think? You bring me on. Let's have a conversation, bro. Let's talk about it. All right, we got Jody, also a member, Bro J, for Big Underdog Crypto Research. This man's research is next level, no matter what the subject. Thank you very much, Jody. I appreciate that. Did y'all like that? Tell me, leave a comment afterwards if you like the forensics. I want you to say real world alpha in the comments. Put RWA. That's what I'm giving you. Real world alpha. Putting in together, applying it different ways so that you can see the truth. So thank you for saying that, Jody. We got very strange Phantom Beat. Very strange indeed. Let me change this part so we can all see what we're looking at here. There we go. And we got Black Roo says fire. I appreciate Black Roo. And one more, he says, thanks for the breakdown, brother. Hey, you are welcome. You are absolutely welcome. I know we went through a lot, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. I had so much to share with you, and I share with as much as I can. I do want you to if you're interested, let me put this up here. There is the 911 call. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah. So I did this, but I thought it would be too long, and I was right because this one took 2 hours to do. Now 2 hours and 16 minutes at the time you're seeing this. The 911 call itself, I also put under audio forensics to look for discrepancies. And but if y'all are interested in that, I'll be happy to do that one with you as well. This one is different because we had one image. But look at all that one image could show you. Again, I did not have the original image. That means that I have to assume certain things, and I'm showing you certain things. And so we could get the original image, and all the things I said go to the wayside. But I don't have the original image. And if I could get that original image, I could do a forensics on that original image and tell you a lot more. But we have to deal with what we have access to. And based on what we have access to, folks, and fact checking it, Underdog researcher, don't believe it. Don't believe it, folks. I believe that it is staged. That means it's partially real and partially manipulated. That's my belief. What do you believe? Let me know. So thank you, folks. I'm glad you were here. I'm glad you were attentive. And until next time, you know what I'm about to say, folks. You know what I'm about to say. This has been the Underdog Research Channel, giving you another forensic breakdown of real world alpha. See you later.
Juices will begin.
Yeah, people, I'm moving no research. See, that's the difference between making a bag or losing a bag. It's like work, research. BOT make the tech work. And Underdog, you like Cap Kirk. We masters in the metaverse, and we stay on with the research. Deep work, What you mean you no research? See that's the difference between 100 stacks and no stacks. Show me research, light work. BOT make the tech work. An underdog, he like Cap Kirk. We masters in the metaverse, and we stay on with the research. All these boys still gassed up like Ethereum freeze on NASCAR. Last week I got a black card, I was stunning, boy, I took it too far. And I didn't even really have to, but money sweet, I got a sweet too. Couple billions pictures like I'm Babe Ruth, and all I had to do was pick the truth. Pick and choose, it's a research. You a fool if you chase high, bro. Homies losing, they don't peak work. It's hella better on the side, bro. Parabellum with a god, bro. War ready, what's the acronym? Wealth analysis, research, and that's freedom, it's a synonym. Yeah, swear to God, when I put in work, I'll be really in. Yeah, swear to God, if you did the same, you could get in. Yeah, our past time is counting up all these dividends. Yeah, I heard you was going to the moon, I need evidence. Word, I don't move with no research. See, that's the difference between making bad